crafty lefty who has relied heavily on off-speed and a well-located fastball. Recently, I've been struggling with locating the curve, and I feel it has become more of a mental thing. Any tips for regaining control of the Uncle Charlie? So without very much context, obviously, like the crafty lefty relied heavily on off-speed. I would assume that you've been throwing the off-speed or have been throwing the particular curveball pitch a good amount of time. So maybe something just came up out of nowhere. This happens a lot, dude. Like throughout the course of a season or even off season, like one day I'll feel like, man, I'm freaking snapping some bangers off. And then the next day, like it's nowhere close. So I think the most important thing again for me is to create these specific cues that you can always revert back to that have been utilized when your pitch has been at its best. Now you get there, I think, honestly, by increasing the amount of like repetitions. And I know for me, it's my curveball as well, because it's probably the least thrown pitch in games. So when I go to throw it in a game, there is a little bit of doubt that kind of leads into this sense of uncomfort of throwing the pitch. And I really do believe it just takes more repetitions, man, more repetitions when it matters, but you need to get there by developing these cues and developing familiarity with the pitch over time in a very comfortable environment, if that makes sense, right? Because if you're throwing it to a partner, it doesn't feel comfortable. You kind of feel bad for the partner sometimes if you're throwing it everywhere. So if it does take like you going out onto the mound and just throwing the curveball like into a bucket at 20%, 30%, 40%, and then bumping it up to 60, 70, 80, 90, boom. All right, now we get it. And you hammer all of these repetitions to then feel that comfort. And then you take it into, all right, I'm going to go now. My next step is to take it into an environment that is a little bit less comfortable, right? So then you start throwing it to your partner again, get those cues that you have, and then you just continue to build off those previous blocks that you had placed, right? So that's kind of my process, because again, like I said, my curveball has at times been like a pitch where if a catcher calls in a game, I'm like, oh no, frick, I haven't thrown this in a game in a while, right? So I think it just comes down to like, what does that process for you look like? How do you get to a point where, you know, your first instinct or your first reaction / mental response when about to throw it is not, holy crap, I hope this goes good, right? Like, no, it's going to go good because I've prepared for it to go good over the course of, you know, whatever, and trust that your work is good. I think at the end of the day, like this is kind of the underlying truth and foundation of this. Anytime that there's mental restriction, right, that's leading into some physical restriction, in this case, like not locating the curveball or Uncle Charlie, as you say, that there is so much caring and you care so much that you want to, it's either you care so much or like you just want to avoid that embarrassment of not being able to locate it. So a lot of the times, man, it comes down to, I find establishing freedom by care less, trust more is like the ticket, dude. I literally say that to myself in games, right? Like if I'm in a jam or I'm 2-0 on the guy, that's like, dude, like I've prepped too hard for this spot. I've prepped too hard for me to be nervous, for me to have any mental issues. Like I need to stop caring and just let everything happen the way it's going to happen. And I am only going to control what I can control. And that's the work. Now I'm in the position. All right, let's go. Care less, trust more. I know it's easier said than done, but hopefully that helps. So anytime you're struggling with a particular pitch in the control of it, I think increase the repetitions in a comfortable environment to then develop some cues that you can utilize when you know it's at a good spot, right? And then slowly just build on that. Hopefully that helps. But good question. And you spelt my name wrong, so that's an issue. Much love. Work hard. See you, brother.